Okay, so I did my informative brief on the evolution of the immigration policy in the United States, right? You might ask yourself, what is immigration and why is it so important? The definition of immigration is for any person to move to a foreign country permanently, right? And immigration is so important because it's what makes us who we are. If we were immigrants from Asia and we mostly had Asian immigrants making up America, our culture would be totally different. Same thing with Africa or people from the islands, etc., right? It really makes us who we are. So that brings me to the beginning. In the early 1800s, we had an open border policy. Anybody could come in and out of America. And the reason why is because we needed laborers. We needed people to build up and make America what it is today, right? The first real law restricting immigration was the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. And what that basically was Americans didn't really like Chinese or people of Asian descent coming into America because they were taking jobs, they were just taking a bunch of opportunities, and things started getting violent. So in return or in result, they stopped Asians from coming in or Chinese from coming in for a year. It later got extended, but that's what it did. It stopped Chinese from coming in. Right. Next, in 1892, we had the opening of Ellis Island over in New York. Right. And that's when over 12 million Europeans immigrated over here. Right. That was the big boom for America. Like, things really started happening, and we started to get some notoriety. And now in 1900, we had two different laws that came into place. We had the Immigration Act of 1917 with the literacy test, and then we also had the Quota Acts of 1921 and 1924. And the restrictions were based on national origin, right? So we were favoring Northwest Europeans. So Southeast Europeans weren't really on the list. I think about 2% of them were able to make it in. And it says the uncertainty generated over national security during World War I made it possible for Congress to pass the legislation. So the whole reason for this is because we were going to war, and the security measures were a little bit higher. So we had to stop letting Southeast and Southwest Europeans in. And it just tightened up the restrictions. So post-World War II, fast forward, post-World War II, we had the Bracero program of 1942 to 1964. And this was basically where the United States was going into war, and we needed more people to fuel that fight, right? We needed more people working in the factories and whatnot. So we had made deals with places like Mexico for, Latin Americans, or even Africans or Asians to come into the country, but they were on contract. So they needed to be working. In order for them to stay legally in the country, they needed to be working and supporting the army, pretty much, and supporting the war. So after that, we started having increased regulation, right, in the Refugee Act of 1980. Now, around this time, we had a lot more illegal immigrants coming in, because, of course, these are after the wars, and at this point, America is built up. America is the place to be. It's not like it was in the early 1800s. So therefore, you had a lot of jobs and places that were hiring illegal immigrants. And the 1986 Immigration Reform and Control Act, it made it illegal to knowingly hire undocumented immigrants. So long story short, you would be getting in trouble if you were a business owner and you were hiring undocumented illegal immigrants, right? Now, after that, we had birth of Homeland Security, right? And this was post 9/11, and this is probably something that the rest of you guys probably know. After 9/11, this is when immigration got very tight, because we learned we couldn't just be letting anyone into the country, because we are the place to be, right? We're the number one country in the world, so people are trying to hurt us. So things got a lot tighter with that, and immigration started getting tied a lot more with national security, right? Now, from 2010 to now, we have DACA, right? And DACA of 2012 protects undocumented immigrants brought to U.S. as a kid. Now, this is around the time where deportation started to become a way bigger thing. So, but we would start running into problems like, let's say I was the child of an illegal immigrant, but I was born on U.S. soil. That means I am a U.S. citizen, right? My father or my mother aren't, so they would have to be sent, but I would be okay to stay, right? Due to DACA. We also have, with our new president, we have travel bans and zero tolerance border policies, because at this point, America is at its peak and America just keeps growing. So we still have a lot of illegal immigrants that are coming in and outside of the country, or into the country and not leaving the country at all. So now in the current state that we're in, we have a lot of policies that are changing a lot, especially with the change of presidency. We have, on one hand, we have the Democratic Party that'll be in charge for a couple of years that are more pro-immigration, whereas the Republican Party is less immigration. So the policies are continuously changing, and President Trump is definitely making sure that a stop gets put to immigration. And that's it.